It's time to go back. Back to 2010.
You're listening to the Business Beyond Belief podcast with Laura Husson, where the business of living a full and exciting life because of your business is her business.
Welcome to episode 56 of the Business Beyond Belief podcast. I am your host, Laura Husson, and today I am super thrilled to introduce you to a lovely friend of mine who I have known since possibly 2009, definitely 2010, Helen Pritchard. Now, Helen is currently known as the LinkedIn lady, and she's done a fantastic job of building a hugely successful, massively profitable, and super enjoyable business that she absolutely thrives on running. She is somebody who, when you watch her show up, you're like, wow, how did she get here? And so today we're literally going to dive into the how, the where, the when. I'm asking her all about her journey so that you guys can listen and see that, do you know what? The journey is not always straight. It's not always simple, and it's not always how it might appear on the surface either. So with all that said, you can find the show notes over at businessbeyondbelief.com/blog/056. And I will see you in the group. Bye for now. Welcome, Helen, to the Business Beyond Belief podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. You are officially, and I do not mean this in an offensive way, the oldest person that I know who I've had on the podcast.
An original, an OG. That's what it is.
OG, that's exactly it. So I was trying to remember. I think it was 2010 when we met.
Lifetime ago.
It literally feels like another life. So,
where did we meet first? Was it Brighton or was it Coventry?
No, it was. Coventry. Was it Coventry? I was going to say in Birmingham. Was it Coventry? I don't even remember.
I think it was Coventry. And did you come to Brighton as well?
Yep.
Yeah. So Coventry was the first time we met because we ended up on a table in a back room. Do you remember?
I do, in a little tent, like a gazebo thing.
Yeah, and we were a bit like, yeah, I don't think I can bother to talk to anyone. That was the kind of vibe, and therefore we just talked to each other.
That was it. And now here we are, like almost 10 years later. It's amazing.
Oh, 10 years. 10 years.
It's insane, I know. So I would love to, firstly, we're all blethering on like, everybody knows who you are. Just for anybody who's listening who doesn't already know you, I would love you to I'm really interested to hear how you describe yourself in your own words in the Helen Pritchard, like, this iteration of who you are. So
yes. So hi everybody, and hi Laura, thanks for having me on. So I'm Helen Pritchard. My company is called Helen Pritchard Online, and I'm most famous for helping people get leads from LinkedIn. Who knew? But particularly people getting inbound inquiries from LinkedIn and other social media, really, with people who they really love to work with, and that's the difference. So it's not just any old lead, it's not any old bit of money, it's like the right people who want what you want, what you've got, and who are more than willing to pay for it. So
I love it. Oh my goodness. And I honestly, it's funny because like if I look at the journey of where we were, when I first met you, you were running New Stalk Times, and that was your baby.
Nobody look at that, please. I was deep in the mum zone. Baby zone.
Well, we both were. My goodness, I was running my baby sling business, and you were running New Stalk Times, and we were like, oh, you could try this. I was obsessed with Twitter, and it was all like, oh my goodness, we could do this, we could do that. We just had the whole world like at our feet, and our biggest concern was the fact of whether we liked the word mumpreneur or not, I think.
Yeah, well, we were at the Mumpreneur Awards, weren't we?
We were indeed. Yes, we were. Oh.
And we were just in such a different place. Like, you were still teaching then, weren't you?
I was. Yeah, I was. I think I hadn't even handed my notice in. It was probably about 3 months before I handed my notice in.
Yeah, it was. You were definitely still teaching. Yeah.
So
we
there's
were
so much.
Married to
I know.
other people that we are married to now. But yeah, I think we had worse hair than we have now.
I know. I look back on that and I'm like, oh my goodness, I look so much better now than I ever did. And I used to think, oh, my teenage years are always going to be like the best. No way. Oh my gosh.
No way. I'm the same. I'm like, I look better now than I definitely did 10 years ago, and definitely a year ago. It's like, it's good.
I love it.
I'm nearly, I'm 40 this year, and
Me
look
too.
forward to it. Yeah, never felt better, never looked better, never been more happier, never been more successful. So
I love it.
So good.
I feel the same. I feel exactly the same. And so this year I turned 40 and my business is 10 years old within a couple of months of each other. So I'm like, oh my goodness, everything just feels like big journey, big landmarks, big all the things. So
yeah.
All right.
So we make it sound easy, but it's not all been straightforward, has it?
Well, I think that's the thing. Exactly. It's like, if we were to go back a little bit, like right now, it's easy for us to sit here and be like, oh, we have all this lovely swishy hair and nice makeup and all the things now.
We have all the things, all the America trips coming up.
All the America trips, all the world travel, all of the things. And I think that's why it's so interesting for me, like watching you evolve is probably like, it's like a reflection for me of the fact, obviously, I can't watch myself evolve in the same way other people see it.
Yeah.
And it hasn't been a straight road. And I think that's, it's something I talk about quite a lot, but I love the fact that sometimes when I interview people, I don't really know their winding road. Whereas I feel like I've probably got a bit more insight in yours than I have most people. So I would love to know, somebody asked me a question yesterday that really stopped me in my tracks. So I'm going to ask it to you as well. And I haven't prepped you for this. So apologies in advance.
All right.
So I'll tell you what my answer was after you share yours. And so she asked me yesterday, she was like, she'd reached out to me, a client who used to be a website client from years ago. And she reached out to me going, oh my gosh, I've got this panic with my website. And I was like, I don't really know how to help. And she was like, oh my goodness, I've just looked at what you're doing. This is so amazing. And she was like, with all your journey and all the twists and turns, she's like, what would you say has been your biggest breakthrough or your biggest, like, oh my goodness, I understand it now. Like, what's been your biggest takeaway? And I was like, whoa, that's a big question. I need some time to think. So I'd love to know how you would answer that, because as somebody who's watched a part of your journey, I'd love to know what that feels like to you.
Well, for me, like the biggest thing, I think the biggest takeaway, certainly because you were miles ahead of me. Like, you went in for the online thing, you were doing you were investing in all the mentors, and you were doing all the travel, and you were doing that miles before I was. And you were one of the first people, like, so obviously we were mates. And I used to say to you, like, how much money are you making, Laura? You'd be like, oh, I've done 30 grand a month, I've done this. And that was like still miles out of my reality. Yeah. Very inspiring, but I was still like, so the biggest takeaway I've got is to ask yourself questions. So when someone like you or anyone else says, oh, I did 30 grand last month or 100 grand, I mean, I've met people, whatever, it's like, how could that be possible for me?
Yeah.
And a big shift for me when I went from doing agency style stuff to scalable training was when I asked myself, how could I make £1,000 in an hour? And it was just asking myself that question and just sitting with it and kind of thinking, how could I? Asking myself questions rather than putting in the whole, I can't make £1,000 in an hour, And that was when I did the paid webinar, which was, I'd never seen anyone do that before, but I did it. And, and I got 30 odd people signed up at £100 each. And I was just like, I was just under 30. I remember like bouncing out of the webinar going, I've just made like $2.5 grand or $3 grand or something in an hour's work, like from home, basically in my pajamas, and I loved it, and everyone was raving about it, and it was only from asking myself that question that ever happened.
Yes.
So it doesn't really matter what your next goal is. The thing is to ask yourself, how could that be possible for me?
Yes.
So when
I
was
love
going
that.
for my £1 million year this year, it was like setting you in, obviously we're both spiritual, like AF, but like setting your intentions, one thing, anchoring your goals, another, but actually sitting with yourself and asking yourself, how is this going to be possible? Like when I talked about my £1 million year this year, like saying it made me feel like all weird or whatever. But then it's sitting with it and thinking about what comes up and just thinking, well, how is this possible? And I think by surrendering to it and just thinking, well, I know it is possible because I've seen other people do it. And there's, if I can do a £500,000 year, I can do £1 million year. And it doesn't matter what the numbers are. It's like, can I go from, when I first started charging 50 quid an hour and now, I charge 500 quid an hour. It doesn't really matter. But it's just asking yourself, well, how is that going to be possible for me? I know it is, but how? Yeah. And just letting your intuition sort of put things into place and then taking that inspired action. So I think that would be my takeaway, is ask yourself the right questions.
Yeah. Yeah. And hard questions. Like, I think that's the thing. And I know that, so James Wedmore said two things along those lines to me a long time ago. And the first one of those was, he said, I can't remember whose quote this is. I don't know if it's Zig Ziglar. I'm not sure. I'd need to check, but
one of those guys.
He one of them. It says, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask.
Nice.
So to improve your life, you ask better questions. And it's like, that is so it. And I love, my favorite people to hang out with are people who ask really insightful questions. They'll have a conversation with you, and they're not just like, oh, that's nice, cool, and like coming back with something. They're like asking questions where it shows they're really listening to what you're talking about, and they're really reflecting that into like, well, where could that match for me? And so and the other thing is that he also was talking about when like you see other people doing the big scary thing that you think you can never do. So like the £1 million year, for example, and you just find examples of that, and you're like, thank you for showing me what's possible. That was the thing. That was the reframe. Because I used to be triggered by things all the time of like, oh gosh, like I remember going to London, probably 2013, 2014, going to London to meet with a client whose website we were going to do. And I was absolutely bricking it. I was on the train and I was reading this guy's book. He was a published Hay House author. And I was like, oh, he's a millionaire. I'm not sure if I've ever met a millionaire before other than to get autographs. And I was so intimidated, and in my head, now I'm like, what was I like?
Like I can't wait. Yeah, I can't wait to get in front of this guy so I can ask him some questions. Yeah,
I know. Like that's, now I'm often in rooms with people who are like, and that even doesn't become relevant. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not interested in like, oh, well, let's hang out with millionaires. It's like, let's hang out with people who are really interested in like more and growth and like being open to everything being possible.
And that's what the millionaire is. So the millionaire, obviously, like we've put this thing on being a millionaire and everything, and £1 million year, and it's still a big thing in our society, like in the UK, to be a millionaire, even though cost of living, all the rest of it, you're not going to survive the rest of your life on £1 million. But like it's the money. So I'm dating at the moment. So here we go, segue. So people say to me like, oh, who do you want to meet? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, you know what? I want to meet successful men, not because I want their money, because I've got my own money, but it's what success means about them as a person. Yeah. And it's the same with meeting a millionaire. It's not like, oh my God, you've got over £1 million in assets. It's like, what have you done? Like it's a symptom of the mindset and the activity that it takes to get there, isn't it? And it doesn't trigger me at all. I can't wait I love hanging around with people who are really wealthy, because it's not about how they've done it, or it's just about, there's what I call expansive questions.
Yeah. And how they're wired in general. Yeah. The things the choices they make, and just like how they show up, and just like, wow, this feels good, to just be around this. And this is why I will always upgrade all my travel. I will always like choose those options, because I know that while again, it's not about like even millionaire or any bracket like that, but it's that level of like choosing yourself and
the
choosing
experience.
To back yourself.
It's all about the experience, and it's about people and relationships. And if you think about us 10 years ago, like who were we hanging around with? Like what were we spending our days? And I was saying this to my mate the other day. I was like, do you know what we don't do anymore? So my mate is a guy. Like we don't gossip anymore. We never gossip. We just don't. Literally, we're just not interested. We're too busy talking about more important stuff. And I think you can totally change who you are as a person.
100%.
I really do think you can completely reinvent yourself as a person in a good way. And that doesn't mean you're not authentic. It just means you're an evolution of who you are on the planet.
Yeah.
And people say to me, because I was really like struggled with my mental health when I was younger, so sort of agoraphobic, and I couldn't leave the house, and and all those kind of things. And I always played very, very small, because it kept me safe, like physically and mindset wise. I am not that person anymore, even though that label was put on me like 20 years ago. Now it's not there, and it's kind of like, it's absolutely fine to change who you are.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean you're not authentic. It just means you're just on an evolutional journey.
Yeah, open. And I think that's the interesting thing. And it's funny that you said that about the gossip, because when I mentioned the biggest thing we had to worry about was whether we like the word mumpreneur or not, I literally had the vision in my mind of us like kind of not bitching necessarily, but just kind of gossiping
about it. Yeah. And around, thinking, oh, is this for us? Is this what we're being at? And it's part of it is a sign of wanting to evolve. Yeah. But part of it is a sign of being bored and not having big things to think about. Totally. And I know that when you get in the zone and magic happens, you're just like, oh my God, this is incredible. What an experience. But you always get you might not, but occasionally I get just dragged back into the day-to-day, the nitty-gritty. You know, we're here to have experience. So, but you're kind of always between the two. But once you've had a feel of it, of a taste of what it's like, it's kind of like, that's where you get your buzz from.
Yes.
From getting into that zone, not from trying to drag other people down, have a bitch, or try and bond over being negative. It's much more fun and expansive to bond over being positive and how you can help each other and other people, definitely.
Yeah. And what's possible, like, in the whole world. That's like my favorite topic of conversation. It's like, what else is possible?
What else is possible for everybody?
Yeah, exactly.
Not just me and you, but everybody.
Yeah, it's so fun. So I would love to know, like, I know that way back when we were both in the situation where we both separated from our marriages around the similar time.
We did lots of late night MSNs, weren't there?
We did MSN and Skype, typing to each other on Skype with a glass of wine super late at night.
Typing on Skype, those are the days.
And I know that, like, after that time, there was a time where we didn't talk to each other as often for a number of years. And so in that time, I know that kind of your journey was like, you were doing this, you were doing that, you were finding your feet, you were looking at what works. What was the point? Oh, and I realized I didn't come and tell you my answer to that question. So I'll tell you at the end what my answer to that question was yesterday about my biggest takeaway. I would love to know what, like, shifted, or how did you come from the place of, like, feeling tight and fear and all the things that we used to feel, and like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to work, to, oh, here I am, you know, like, and I know we've talked about takeaways, but did anything, like, one of the things people, my clients ask me all the time is like, what did you actually do? Like, how did you get here? What was your journey? What does it look like? So I'd love to hear what comes to mind on that for you.
Yeah. Okay. So probably, you know, in that period, I started my social media agency. So you were like the website woman, I was like the social media woman or whatever. But I kind of got caught up in, I knew the online stuff was happening. I knew you were doing it and there's other people doing it. I was in it. I've always been in the online world. I just felt really quite resistant to it. I don't know why. I was just kind of like, oh, it's a lot of people making money from showing other people to make money. And I did that whole course junkie thing. And I still remember very well being on the phone to you in the car park, in the pub, in the village. Like, I remember it very clearly. And you said to me, just don't spend any more money on courses. That's it.
Yes.
You know, I am locking you down. Don't spend any more money. Just go and implement anything you've learned, blah, 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 blah. And I kind of came away from it then. And I went into what I call real world business. So running an agency, having an office, got an investor, going to meetings, doing the whole corporate thing, whole networking, Manchester, Liverpool, like, got really quite well networked. Brought out something new, which was employer branding and using Facebook ads for employer branding, but it was very much in the corporate world. So it wasn't in the online space at all. So that was kind of the journey that I took, and I became the agency owner woman. You know, I've got my own car parking space, I've got motivational shit on the wall, you know, all that kind of stuff. All that, like, tick, tick, tick. But the big pivot, so that actually, what did I do, was I started to fall really out of love with it, because it wasn't aligned with me, because I'm not a corporate person. I don't know if anyone's seen any of my stuff, but, like, I'm not remotely corporate. I could do it. I can chameleon into any situation, and they kind of loved it in a way, because I was just normal and I swore and I was just like a down to earth kind of person, and I'd bounce into a big boardroom. I'd be like, fucking hell, this is great in here, isn't it? Look at this massive table, and what's it like to be the CEO of this company? Like Dave, and Dave would be like, no one's ever asked me that. And I was like, oh, really? What do you love about it? What's good about it? What don't you like, though? Like, what did your wife think when you started this going? You know, and they kind of like, they liked it, because I was just talking to them like normal people. And that's how I got loads of business. So I've never had a problem selling, but like running staff and all that kind of stuff just wasn't for me. But I was just kind of going on the, you know, think of it like a marriage. You're just going through the motions, right? And then one day I just thought, not sure about this, but what was happening was I was going to meet people. And they'd say to me, oh, how's business? Like, how are you getting on? I'd be like, oh, yeah, fine. We get all our leads from LinkedIn. And they'd be like, what? And I'd be like, yeah, all the HR directors contact us, because we were doing employer branding. Now, HR directors, or HR bitches, as I affectionately call them, I did a talk once with women in rail, and I've got this like HR bitches routine that I do. And they were all in HR, and I didn't know. And they were like rolling around laughing. They loved it. But anyway, you know, traditionally very difficult to get a hold of. A lot of people want to get in hold of them and that kind of stuff. But they were coming to me because the way I was using LinkedIn. And I didn't even think about it. So when I started using LinkedIn, it was for my social media agency. And then when I changed into employee branding, I still use LinkedIn. I had a very specific way of using it. So I wrote my headline in a specific way because you're web, right? So early on, I was kind of web. And I looked at LinkedIn when I first started using it, and I was kind of a bit drunk and a bit desperate, like all good stories start. And I was kind of like, shit, I need some money because I was a single mum, I was in loads of debt and, all that jazz, and I wasn't very well. So the things that I couldn't do normally, things like networking, so I couldn't face it. I just wasn't, I had no confidence. My anxiety was pretty bad, and, and all that kind of stuff. Couldn't afford it. I was like about 90 grand in debt at one point. So there's just no way I was spending 15, 20 quid going to an event. I couldn't get to anything because I had these two beautiful children, obviously under 5, aren't the easiest thing to work around logistically. So I looked at LinkedIn and I thought, well, this makes sense because I'll just use it like a landing page. So I know my ideal clients. I've been doing ideal client avatar work for years and years and years. So I know my ideal client. I know what it is that I want to sell to them. I know I need to make 2.5 grand a month to survive. So I'm going to put a package together. It's 250 quid a month. Just need to sell 10 of them and I'm done. I'm all right. So I literally wrote it for my ideal client. So my headline was helping small business owners in Warrington, which is my hometown, sell more and look better online using Facebook and Twitter marketing or something like that. And it was like 250 quid a month. And then I wrote my profile like a landing page. It was like, are you a small business owner in Warrington? Do you feel frustrated that people are trying to sell you stuff you don't understand and that your competitors are doing social media but you don't really get it? Would you like somebody to just manage it for you so you don't have to worry about it, blah, blah, blah. If so, I can help. I'm a single mom. I'm a business owner like you. I get it. I've been doing social media for ages and I can help you. My package is 250 quid a month. This is what you get. If you're interested, drop me a message. So I did it like a really basic copywritten landing page. And then I just went and I connected with small business owners in my hometown. So I went and added all these small business owners, shut my laptop, went to bed, forgot all about it. And then when I put any content out, so you'll hear me talk about my 4 pillars of content. But again, this comes from what I've been doing for ages, which is like telling stories, doing video, putting out social proof and doing call to action posts. And then when I did that, I'd get more business. So I get my 10 clients like that. And I was like, this is great. Then when I transitioned into doing employer branding, because then I was charging 3 grand a month, and I needed 10 clients to give me 30 grand a month so I could pay for everyone's salaries and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
I used LinkedIn in exactly the same way. I just changed the words.
Right.
So it was like, so instead of helping small business owners, it was helping HR directors hire better people faster using Facebook ads. And then the profile was like, are you a HR director? ? Do you feel like this? Are you frustrated? So the templates have always been the same. And that's what makes me laugh really, because it's just mad that I've created a whole business out of something that I just made up. But anyway, so when I would meet people at networking, they'd say like, oh, how's business? And I'd say, oh, we're getting all our stuff from LinkedIn. They'd be like, yeah, but I don't get anything from LinkedIn. And I'd be like, oh, it's really, really easy. So I'm demonstrating now people who can't see the pictures. So I'd get a napkin because we'd normally be in some kind of food place. And I'd draw out my little thing. Like, this is your profile and this is what you do for content. This is what you do for engagement. And this is what you do to add new people. And they'd go away and they'd do it. And I'd see them 2 weeks later and they'd be going, oh my God, I did what you told me to do and it's worked. We've got a lead or we've got an inquiry. And I was like, yeah, I know. I know it works because I've been doing it for years and it's guaranteed to work if it's always worked for me. Yeah. And they'd be like, no one does LinkedIn like this. Like everyone does it this way, which is make it all about you, use it as like a CV, build connections, send loads of direct messages. And I was like, oh no, we don't do that. People come to us and people were just like, oh. And then I started doing the £99 thing as well as running the agency. So that was really when things started to shift because I thought, well, I'll just show people how to do it and I'll make 100 quid and it'll just be a bit of cash for me because I wanted to redo my garden. And then ended up doing hundreds of them and people were absolutely raving about it. So what I learned from that, as well as running the agency and doing these £99, I was doing them morning, noon and night, Laura, honestly. I was doing them
one-on-one?
Yeah, one-on-one for an hour, £99. I know, don't do them anymore, but, obviously.
Where's your link?
Yeah, exactly. There is no link anymore. But you know what? It was brilliant. And it's one of the things that I teach in my mentoring group. It's like, well, have a £99 thing. You know why? I don't need it now because I've got authority, I've got my audience, I've got people buying my stuff because they know me, they like me and trust me. But when you're starting off like I was, nobody knew me for LinkedIn training. So I was joining Facebook groups and when they had a promo day, I'd be like, oh, I'll show you how to use LinkedIn for 99 quid. And they'd be like, oh, great. But what happened is everybody got the results from it. And I was like, fucking hell, this is really working. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, what your business is, it seemed to work anyway. And then I went to a meeting in my agency, hat on. And I was a big corporate, and I saw the guy the other day, actually. It was a big corporate account, very well-known household name, and the change comms directors. And I went in to meet her for the first time. And she just spoke to me like I was an absolute piece of shit.
Oh.
And I just thought, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. Like, this is it's just a no from me.
Yeah.
And I walked out of there. I sacked them as a client the next day. I sacked all my clients. I made all my staff redundant, which was awful. Hired as many as I could back as freelancers. And I just went all in on the LinkedIn stuff because I thought, you know what, this is really fun, really easy. I know I can help more people.
Yeah.
And I could help people who were just like me 10 years ago. So, I know the glamour is in helping people go from 6 to 7 figures. I know that's where it is, but you know where my heart lies is getting people out of the shit. It's getting people who are like panicking and anxious, and they're going to bed every night not knowing where the money's coming from. They're getting up in the morning just panicking about where the next bit of money's coming from. They've got a husband or whatever saying, why don't you just go and get a job? They're thinking, I can't afford the kids' school stuff. I can't afford the... Whereas if they use LinkedIn effectively, you can get enough stuff from me completely free to go and get this, to make it work. You really, really can. And that's probably my proudest achievement is that I can help you completely for free. And through my group and my freebies, there is enough to pull it all together for you to go and get. And I know when I do a 5-day challenge, people go and get leads and they get cash in the bank, and that's what it's all about. It's about, honestly, it sounds a bit twee when I say it, but I'm so genuinely passionate about helping people get themselves out of the shit without them to give me any money, because I know down the line they'll come back. Some people come back. That's not the point. The point is that's what I needed 10 years ago. I needed someone to just give me ABC, do these things, go and get some business, cash in the bank, and then, you can invest in what you want, instead of give me all the money now and you may or may not get a result. And if you don't, it's your fault for not being ready or not being, whatever. And if you do, great, I've got my money anyway. So but when I was really in the hustle, and we're not allowed to say hustle anymore, but I'm a big fan of it, because you know what? A lot of people are like, let's not do hustle, let's have it easy and flow. And I get it. But sometimes you need to hustle. So like that first maybe that 6 months where I started the training business, I genuinely did. If you call hustle working every hour that the God sends and sacrificing lots of things, and that's definitely what I did. But because I did, in that first 6 to 12 months, I did hundreds of those one-to-ones. I did well over 100 guest experts in other people's groups. I was on every social media platform, everywhere I could be. I was building my group. I was building my authority. I was doing all the stuff. And it's only me really in the business then. Yeah. So I think you don't have to, but I think it's important to understand you might have to do that. Yeah. Success. But then, like anything, you start to push it up a hill and it starts to work. So now, suddenly I feel like I just came out of nowhere. Yeah. Like for the LinkedIn stuff. People were like, who the fuck is this? And in a good way, in a bad way. So some people are like, oh, I love her, she's great. Loads of people are like, I hate her. Like, she's, too much. She's too bullshit. She's do this, she's do that. Particularly other marketers who are a bit like, oh, hang on a minute. You can't just burst onto the scene and start being all successful. But of course, I've been in business a long time, but I've been offline. Yeah. So it's kind of like, well, I'm just going to apply all this stuff online. Yeah. And particularly the networking and the strategic partnership stuff. Like, I would say I'm very good at creating relationships with people in a way that doesn't seem like I'm trying to get something out of them, but in the end, I get something out of it. If that makes sense? Yeah, totally. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can tell when you become an influencer. For people who can't see the screen, I did those little weird things. The air quotes. I'm always talking about those on here. Yeah. The air quotes. Yeah. Once you become an influencer with an audience and authority, you can see those people really easily, can't you? Mm-hmm. So we're just like, oh, I want to align myself with you. What I call influencer juice all over you. But what I'm a big fan of is givers gain. So it's about giving, and then over time, build those relationships. And I think that was learned from many, many years of doing it offline. Old school, going to stuff and building relationships and keeping in touch with people and not just being about, oh, I'll speak to you when I need something. Yeah. So that's really helped. And now I find myself in this mad position where, yeah, everything's going really good. You know, people know who I am. They know what to buy from me. Not everyone loves me, but the people that do are mad passionate about it.
Yeah.
Because the stuff that I do works. So
yeah,
every single day I get messages from people saying I've changed their life, which is just incredible.
Oh,
Lovely, you know, never gets boring.
yeah.
I think the inspiration stuff comes because I'm like a total hot mess. And people are like, oh, wow, that's cool. Because if Helen can do it, I can do it, because there's nothing special about me. I've literally just invented something that makes sense. It's super simple. I've created a mastermind, which is what the thing that I sell, which people like want to buy. And the reason why they want to buy it is because they make their money back.
Yeah.
10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times over. You know, I try and be as reasonable as possible to help as many people as possible. So things like, 12-month payment plans with no extra charge, putting payments on hold if people are really struggling, helping people out as best I can, doing the big challenges. The last challenge had 2,500 people in it.
Yes.
All got help for free. And, I like to think I do things authentically. Like if people say to me, I can't afford it, I say, oh, that's cool. I've never ever tried to sell to somebody who's told me they can't afford it, because having been in a situation where I've wanted things I can't afford and someone trying to say, you don't value it or whatever, I just think that
yes. Oh my gosh.
grinds my gears massively.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of my value set. And, and I think the people that I help, and I do have a lot of very successful people in my world as well who really want to tweak things and really maximize stuff. And that's cool. And they're easy to help because they're already there. But I think a lot of people it's pure mindset stuff. And it's not about LinkedIn.
Yeah. It never is. This is the interesting thing, isn't it?
It's the bait and switch. People think, oh yeah, let's go to Helen to learn about LinkedIn. But when they get in, they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I need to be really clear on so many things and get my mindset in the right place and be ready to be visible and all that kind of stuff. So, but it's just, I split with my boyfriend, my ex-boyfriend. It's been nearly a year now. So obviously Laura and I have been friends for a long time. So let's just say the relationship is slightly on and off. And I think we said a couple of times, do you think he might be holding you back a little bit? So the 12 months since we've split up have been incredible because I've just been so focused and it really has helped me massively. And I think what's changed for me is I've just been so much more myself. Yeah. Like so much more open the way that I show up online. And it's weird because I do lives every day just talking about myself, which feels like a bit odd, but people really, really love it. Like they love the behind the scenes stuff. They love to, hear what I'm up to and stuff. And that's really weird because that was like my own head shit. It's like, well, I'm not enough. I can't just turn up as me. I've got to turn up and start juggling LinkedIn stuff and make it work. So that's been a real journey for me. And I did a live this morning about what happens if it all disappears.
Oh,
so that's a
interesting.
Good question for you, Laura. So what happens if it all disappears tomorrow? So I'm only just getting into the groove of having money. Like I've struggled with money all my life. This is the first, probably in the last 6 months, where I've known real consistent. Next 12 months, I know I've got more money coming in a month than I've ever earned in my life in a year. Yeah, and that feels really weird. Yeah, I'm just in that place where it's like, am I spending all my money too quick? Do I need to keep hold of it? What do I do? Like, 'cause I've never had it. It's like learning to walk again, isn't it? Yeah, and it's lovely. And part of it's a kickback from having no money. Spending money on other people is easy and fun. So easy. Like, all I've wanted to do is just take people out, buy people champagne and dinners and just have a party. Like, all the people have been so lovely to me and so supportive when things have been shit. Like, oh yeah, come round, we'll share a takeaway and a cheap bottle of wine and stuff. Yeah. So that's easy. Spending money on yourself, not so easy, not so simple. So, I've just put a deposit down on my watch that I'm buying myself. Just sorting out my new car, like travel. I'm going to Dubai for my 40th and going to Vegas on Thursday. And it's, it's part of me that's like, oh, what are you doing? You just spend all your money. But then there's part of me that's like, fucking hell, it's a game, isn't it? Like, you're winning at the moment.
It is a game. It is a game.
I do think that. I think it's just a game. I read the David Goggins book, which is amazing. Are you going down to London for Expert Empires anyway? David Goggins' book is incredible, called Can't Hurt Me. So really like that book. I don't know. I read that and it was fantastic. And then off the back of that, I read Ant Middleton, First Man In. So they're both kind of SAS army type guys.
Okay.
Now, I thought David Goggins' book was better than Ant Middleton's book. That's just personal preference. But something really, really good in Ant's book is he said that life is 50% good and 50% bad. And I thought, so's business, isn't it? It's 50% good and 50% bad. And when it's good, it's good. And when it's bad, it's bad. And that, as long as you realise that, and it's just a game. And when it's bad, it'll be good again. And when it's good, it'll probably be bad again. I just feel so much more relaxed about it now. I just think, well, it's good at the moment.
That's it. Exactly. And
it.
you've been on that path for such a long time. It's so incredible to witness you just in the good, you know, like it's just so cool. And I always feel like anytime I message you going, oh my goodness, this is so exciting, I'm like, oh gosh, am I like the patronizing, like,
no God, no. I'm just like, I know, it's so exciting.
One of the things that you said that I really loved was about the fact that and that I can vouch for totally is about how, you know, you're already providing enough stuff to help people for free who need it. That when you did your challenge, that last challenge that you did, it was just so cool to be in there and see it. And it's so funny now because I'm more like just aware of my LinkedIn. I mean, my profile was so dusty and like whatever. And I know you love,
haven't you?
I've been very resistant. We've had so many conversations about it. And I changed my profile and I did all the things. And it's so interesting now because whenever the friend requests or whatever, you probably don't call them friend requests on LinkedIn, but you know what I mean. When the connection thingies come through with the little tick boxes, I can always see who came from Helen's challenge because it always starts with the same word. And I'm like, oh, it's a Helen's person. I know you.
Helen's headline, yes, famous. Always causes a bit of a stir every time on LinkedIn.
It's
Somebody
so funny.
always complains about it.
Well, that was the interesting thing. And I think that's a really important thing to touch on is like, you know, it's great. And everything you've just described, I know you did touch on it slightly, but I think it's great for people to realize that even when things come, you know, when growth comes and, you know, you've been on this journey a long time. This is not like, I swear I smiled when you said, oh, I feel like it's just happened out of nowhere. It's like, okay, yeah, you maybe like in terms of what it looks like right now, but you've been on this path for such a long time. And yet I saw the people in your challenge who were like, you know, uninvited, sending this constructive criticism posts and all that. It would have been helpful if we'd have had this, and this. And I'm like, what are you guys doing? And it was so interesting because I could feel that like for you of like, oh, you know, because we're still human. And it's that thing of like, I gave my guts to this, you know, like I gave everything and more. And yet there are still people showing up who are never going to pay me, which is fine. That's their choice. And probably you'd rather they wouldn't anyway.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how entitled they'd feel if they paid you?
Yeah, exactly.
And it was just interesting to see that, you know, to know that at the top of this whole thing and to go back to that thing about being a millionaire and all the other pieces, it's like we're still humans having that whole human experience and feeling all of the things.
Of course. I mean, that day, that was the Sunday of the challenge. So for context, we'd had 2,500 people in it. Every day we had over 10,000 comments and reactions to look at and deal with. I did over 400 hot seats, which was at least 5 minutes for so many people. The ambassadors did about 200 calls or something like that, direct one-to-one with them. And still people were saying they weren't happy with it. Right. So as much as, but also what you have to remember is there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people who were saying how amazing it was.
Of course. Yes.
But I was sat on my bed crying on a Sunday morning, absolutely fucking knackered after been doing it all week because people were saying, oh, it's like a cult in here. You know, people are like, you know, can't say anything there. Everyone jumps to Helen's defense, blah, blah, blah. And I was just sat in the bed. And then I had a look at myself and thought, what are you doing? What are you doing? You should be downstairs with your children, enjoying yourself, not having your Sunday ruined. And I do talk a lot about haters or whatever, haters, potatoes and all that kind of stuff. And it is, you do get 5 minutes and you've got to be gangster and all that. And that's true. Yeah. But you still have that 5 minutes. And that just makes that's just human nature. And the thing is, I have to help and coach a lot of people through that. Because when you become more visible, which is what LinkedIn is, you know, you are going to attract that. And people, particularly on LinkedIn, people are frightened to death. They're like, oh, it's like the LinkedIn police going to come and tell me off because it's not Facebook and all that kind of stuff. And you get all sorts on LinkedIn like you do anywhere else, you know. So, and what annoys me and what upsets me the most is that not everyone's as resilient as me. Yeah. And stuff like that can stop people in their tracks. And, you know, it's another cliche, but I say this all the time in my groups, like, you've got to market yourself like your life depends on it, because it does.
Yeah.
Your dream life does depend on your ability to get out there and be visible. And it's just the way it is, but the thing is, if somebody says the wrong thing to somebody online and they haven't got the resilience and they haven't got the support that I have, and they haven't got the success and they haven't got the confidence and they haven't got the authority, that can ruin their life.
Totally.
To the point where they're like, right, I don't want to put myself out there. I don't want to market my business. I'm no good at what I do. I'm just going to go and get a job and be miserable. And that's how important it is.
Yeah.
And
I so agree with you. And I think that's why it's important to share that it happens at all levels to all of us, no matter what.
And it's important to say that I can be an absolute cow at times as well. It's important to say that. And I have been a cow in the past. I run a big free group. Lots of people in there don't agree with me. And if it's late at night, I'm tired. I'm just I can be really snappy with people and put stuff, and I've upset people online before because I can be very blunt and very direct. So, but I hold my hands up and that, I'm always like, I'm really sorry if I've done something wrong and all that kind of stuff. So everybody's only human, having a human experience.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a certain subsection of people who are going around being negative, not contributing anything, and also not doing their own thing.
Yeah.
It's almost like, what could you achieve if you spent less time picking at me and more time focusing on what you're doing, But, it's a big thing. I had loads of trouble with one of the networking groups last year. And it is, but it's just a distraction as much as anything else.
It is. And it going back to that whole piece at the beginning about wanting to hang out with people who've been at a certain level of success, because that's, the thoughts that they have, that where they focus their attention. People who are, having success and are building lives by their choosing are not spending time partaking in free pop-up groups to just nitpick on missing content. Do you know what I mean? They're not even aware that things like this are happening. It's literally like a whole other universe, because they're just in their zone. Yeah. And so that's the reminder that I always want to give people is you're not here to please all the people. And it is okay that we get offended and hurt when somebody says that. I have one person who this has been going on for years, who repeatedly signs up for my email list. I know it's the same person because we've had the IP address and all the rest of it, and I can block it, but it's quite funny seeing it happen all the time. We're constantly deleting them from the list, and they just come back, and they reply to every email I send, telling me what I've said wrong, what they think, what their opinion is, where I need help, all this. This has been going on for years. How much time do you have on your hands?
So bad, so
it's
mad.
So funny. And especially because I'm super inconsistent with sending emails. It's they must be really on guard. So
it's so bizarre. It really is. But anyway, I mean, it is part of it though. But who knew? Yeah. Who knew this was going to be part of it? It's weird.
Exactly. Isn't it? I know. And if you'd have honestly asked 10 years ago us, what would we be talking about on a podcast interview 10 years time? We would never have saw any of this coming for sure. No. But we would have known we'd have been talking about that Mompreneur conference. That's the only piece. So
yeah, and someone said to me, "Oh, what's next or whatever?" And I've done a live today about what would happen if it lost it all or whatever.
Sure.
And it's I could never have predicted what's going to happen to me in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So I can't even predict what's going to happen in the next 2 months.
Yeah.
Literally, I feel the same. Play the game like you're on the field right now, and deal with what you've got in front of you.
I feel exactly the same. And so when you that question, what if it all stopped? It doesn't even scare me, that question.
No.
Because I feel I'd just start again. It's not difficult to when you're sorted and you're clear in your head of where your value is and how you show up and how to talk about your stuff, you can just start again anywhere. So
I said to my mate today, worst case scenario, just go get a job. It's not the end of the world. That's what most people do.
Many people do it. Yeah.
Wouldn't be my first choice, but I just go and sell something for someone else. I could sell anything to anyone, so.
I know.
When you realise that, it's kind of
unemployable by then. I don't know.
When you realise that the risk isn't that huge, then it's much more fun.
Yeah, you take the fear out, then you're good. So okay, well, I'm going to say I didn't answer the question about the biggest takeaway. I'm going to share with you what she said. When she asked me, what's your biggest takeaway over the years? I was very surprised at how quickly I came up with this, because it's very profound. I was saying that my biggest takeaway, and this is very recent, my biggest realization for myself is that the more me I am and the more me I let be seen, the more freedom I create. And that is not just for myself, but like for other people who are watching what I'm doing, and then they go and do it in their lives, for my kids, for everybody. And
what
so
that poem is over there, isn't it? The Marianne Wilson one.
Ah, love it.
Wow, yeah.
I love it. And that's the piece. It's just like, it is safe to be who we are. It is safe to talk about whatever we need to talk about. And your journey and my journey, pivots galore, and, just doing things until you find your thing that feels like your thing and that lights you up.
Yeah.
There's no science in it. It's just like keep taking the inspired action that feels good until something works. That is the recipe.
That's true. And also, like, one of my most famous sayings is, it's just for now, it's not forever.
Yes. Yeah.
It is what it is now. Doesn't mean it's going to be like this forever, whether it's good or bad. It's just, who you are now isn't going to be who you're going to be forever. I know when you start doing the websites, and I want you to stop doing the social media, we're like, well, we're not going to be those people anymore. And it's kind of like you're always shedding that identity all the time, and it's okay.
Always. Yeah. And it's fun. It actually becomes fun. Like, like now I'm like constantly like, well, gosh, what is around the corner? I have no idea, but I'm very excited to find out. So
yes, me too.
Thank you so much for making time in your like wading through your inbox of lives that you've changed to come and hang out with me. And I would love to ask you to tell everybody where's best to come and connect with you or find out more.
So I really would like people to follow me on Facebook, on my personal Facebook, because I do a live every day on there. Okay. And I think that's a good place to sort of get to know me. So obviously find me Helen Pritchard Warrington. But on Facebook as well, then if you go to the LinkedIn marketing group, if you search for it, you'll find it's got about 5,000 or 6,000 in it at the moment. All my freebies are in there. All of my Q&As in there for your questions that you might have. I'm not in there all the time, but I do put my head in now and again, and all my team are in there, my ambassadors. So that's the place to go and hang out while we're waiting for things to happen. Like the 5-day challenges. So we do one of those a quarter, next one is in July. And then obviously the mastermind launches once a quarter as well. So they're the places to find me. Ironically, mainly Facebook. But obviously come and connect me on LinkedIn as well. But I'm maxed out at 30k on LinkedIn. So you have to just follow.
I didn't know they had a max.
They do. So silly. But yeah, they do.
Well, I will link all of that up in the show notes so that people can click if they don't want to search. And thank you so much. And here's to the next 10 years.
I know. I'm getting face to face soon. You have to live so far away on a tiny.
I know, it's so silly.
It's ridiculous. Geography. Right, yes. Thank you very much,
Thank you. All right, bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.
That's not all, folks. To add your voice to this conversation, get behind-the-scenes access, and hang out with Laura in person, you'll want to head over to the Business Beyond Belief online community. It's totally free to join, and we've got a spot reserved with your name on it at businessbeyondbelief.com/yes. Until next time, live your life and stay breezy.